Hello, good day, everyone, and welcome again. We're back streaming to our virtual concert halls channel. It's dedicated to live music and many other events. I'm Anna Spinskaya. I'm a pianist, and I'm hosting this program from Washington, D.C. area. It's really nice weather today. The other day was really humid and difficult to breathe, but today is a wonderful sunny day here, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Our mission here is to connect musicians, artists, performers, and educators with the audiences and bring these programs together to you from around the entire globe. With today's program, we are diving a little deeper into very important questions for every artist. Auditioning, competing, is that a huge burden, just an obstacle, or is it a journey which can be enjoyed? And the most importantly, why compete? Why audition? What for? And let's not be afraid of asking another question. Is it even worth it? We as musicians need to make sense of climbing this ladder towards the place in the spotlight, towards that 6-foot tall stage. We need to start understanding the ladder before we can really take on the journey with a purpose. We need to understand the steps which take us up that tall stage. And of course, most importantly, we need to answer the questions, why? Why do we even want to be on that stage? Is it ambition? Of course it is. Is it desire to share? Absolutely. But there is definitely more to it. There's complexity involved behind the motivation of an artist to go through a grueling process of learning the art, learning how to express it. Sometimes, you can be working on 2-3 note phrase forever, and it never clicks, and it never clicks. It's it's the process which can be hard to enjoy, or it can be enjoyable. And then on top of it, you're dealing with the career prospects. What are we looking for in the auditions, competitions? Is it awards? Absolutely. Awards. Let's see what kind of awards our auditions and competitions are offering people who join the competitions and auditions. There's lots of them, and they're presented and they're sponsored by companies all around the world. Is that all the awards, or is there again more to it? Here, the awards for the 2023-24 season are sponsored by companies in Europe, in Asia, in the United States, in many different countries, and these are focused on providing musicians with more opportunities. Some are cash awards. Of course, money is very, very important, because we can take the money and use it for furthering our reach, furthering our education, furthering our ability to communicate. But most of our awards are offering, in addition to that, opportunities again to get on a stage, again to present the music to the audience. That connection between the artists and the audience, and back between the audience and the artists, is at the core of our motivation to climb that seemingly impossible ladder towards the 6-foot tall stage of important and prestigious concert halls. These questions are at the core of every artist's existence. These are existential questions, I want to say. And virtual concert halls and Sound Espressiva were created in 2020 by a group of professional musicians. We all do climb those steps to the stage, deal with the anxiety and stage presence, preparation, and all of that that's involved in there. we had many, many purposes and missions in mind when we created virtual concert halls and sound expressiva. And one of them was to seek and find answers to those questions, or at least some answers to those questions, and making sense of the music world, how it works. And in the end,
no matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Expressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.
So once we tackle these questions, we are able to understand how this process works, and we are able to influence it, make it better for the artists, make it better for the audience. That understanding is powerful and very motivating. That's how we create our communication, how we create our programs and all these projects, auditions, competitions, and other programs where we present panels of discussions. All of that is coming. We are on all platforms at 12 noon and sometimes twice a day. So please subscribe to our channels so you can get a notification and join us again. Today, I want to also present one of our very dear collaborators, a team member, pianist from Australia, Chris Au. Chris joined our Sound Expressiva project in 2020. At the very beginning of when we just started, he applied for the Sound Expressiva Global Competition, and he chose an artistic category in that competition, which was called Music Ambassador. We created this category among the musicians who were involved in creating the Sound Expressiva, and we felt this is an opportunity for people who feel as music ambassadors to have a floor. Some musicians prefer just to go on stage and play and go off, but some people want to connect with the audience on many levels, through the musical language, through visual presentations, through other means, other languages, other art languages. So it was an experiment. We didn't know if anyone will even apply, and quite a few people did. Chris Au, though, absolutely wowed the audience, the judges, and everyone in the organizing committee of the Sound Expressiva competition with his absolutely genuine dedication to the concept of music ambassador. So he was one of the laureates of that competition in that artistic category. Since then, the relationship developed. Chris was invited to join the panel of the judges, and he also joined the team of virtual concert halls and Sound Expressiva. He became one of our absolutely best scriptwriters and hosts, and he hosted numerous programs for us since then. He's absolutely delightful, and he connects with the audience, connects with the artists on a very deep and very profound level. At the same time, he is very accessible and very fun to work with. Smart guy too, wonderful pianist. So with Chris, we decided to dive a little bit deeper into those questions, and without fear of going and finding maybe some obstacles there, some pet peeves, some monsters, some questions which cannot be maybe answered right away. And so this discussion about how, why, what for, and is it worth it are the topics of our discussion with Chris. And we would like to present what it is we discovered exploring these topics.
that one of the biggest international music competitions happening right now is the Chopin International Piano Competition. And there's a lot of discussion in the chat rooms and even within the contestants about the topic of competitions. Are they useful for musicians? Does this kind of competing corrupt our art? And so it's very interesting, and we want to actually, as Sound Specific Competition, tackle these and actually have a conversation about these topics. Especially because we are unique in that we put everybody on the virtual stage. We have no time limits for any of the semi-final and final rounds, no repertoire restrictions either, and you get immediate feedback from the jury. So we want to actually put ourselves in the conversation and get kick-started and ask these questions. We want to enter the conversation and address this head on. And so today, I'll be playing the advocate, actually, for abolishing competitions by arguing the affirmative of the statement that you'll see, that there is nothing positive or healthy about competitions. And I'm going to invite Dr. Anna Ospinskaya, the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls and Sound Specific Competition, to argue for the negative, that there is something healthy, that there is something positive about competitions. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Anna on.
Hi everyone. Hi Chris.
Hello.
Thank you for inviting me. I love the question.
Well, it actually derived from a Facebook comment we got from one of our, I'm just going to call him our fans. And and he actually posted something about this in a comment. And I thought it's a very good way to kickstart a discussion, because it's actually in a lot of these chat rooms in the Chopin competition, you'll see a lot of this happening. You'll see people saying, oh, Chopin would be so disappointed that you see his music being used for these contests. And, let's have a chat about it, right?
As musicians who had gone through the competitions and even established our own, I think we need to tackle this question. I'm grateful that you brought it up.
There is nothing healthy or positive about competitions. Lang Lang and Yu Jia Wang's teacher Gary Grafman, on accepting them into his studio at Curtis, told them explicitly not to do any competitions. That was his one condition on being his student. His belief, and I am paraphrasing here, is that they didn't need to. A competition forces one to hone a set of pieces for a period of a long time, years, in order to get them to a point where they're so refined that are acceptable for the competitions. And his point is that using this time to perfect these pieces, you're not learning new repertoire. You're not playing with other people, and the whole point of competitions is to meet conductors, to meet other musicians, to meet management and record labels. And Gary Grafman says, I can introduce them to you myself, right? And so what happens in competitions is that competitors constantly recycle old repertoire for competitions, and it makes sense. You want to perfect what you play best, so that when you're on stage and competing against all these other people who are also perfecting what they play best, you want to shine through. But what happens is the other repertoire that you learn starts to dwindle. I myself felt the effects of this when I had to turn down some chamber music collaborations to concentrate on the repertoire I'm playing for competitions. Or I had to say, oh, sorry, maybe in a few months' time. I had to delay that. And even if you win, let's say you win a competition, you get engagements with conductors, concert series, orchestras, and record labels. You might not actually have a wide range of repertoire that they may need. Right, and a lot of these artists out there performing have a massive amount of repertoire, so that conductors can choose from a list of concerti, etc. And I want to use the example of an Icelandic pianist, Vikunga Olafsson, who didn't compete in any major competitions, but he formed his own record label. He made his own music festival, and because of his incredible and stellar playing, he was able to make himself heard. And he now is engaged in some of the most prestigious music festivals. He is signed with Deutsche Grammophon and releasing albums consistently, and has a spot in the program of many concert halls. So that's my first point, that there is nothing positive about competitions. And next, to talk about something healthy, that there is nothing healthy about these competitions either. Competitors work really hard to even perfect a perfect video recording, only to be sometimes and more often than not rejected from entry with no feedback. And competitors who finally gain entry have to use their own money to travel, to find room and board, to feed themselves, and often scramble to find practice rooms to compete, to practice in. And all these costs are often to no avail when they're not accepted into the second or semi-final or final rounds. Mentally, this is really unhealthy and discouraging for artists. Sometimes they don't get much constructive or encouraging feedback from the jury members, and you can be left feeling resentful about the whole competition process. And more importantly, you may feel like you're not worthy as a musician, that you have nothing to say, or your technique is not good enough, or you didn't choose the right pieces for this competition. And a lot of the time, the musician feels that they're not good enough. And worse, that they're not enough at all, like as a musician themselves. And the reality is that these things take time to develop. You need to play a lot of concerts to find out what you play best and what you feel comfortable with. And musicians need to find their strengths and weaknesses and the unique playing style, their personality, and time. It takes time to acquire the historical knowledge and the performance practice to play these appropriate styles well and with a good understanding. And some pieces do take that amount of time. Competitions these days value young and flashy. They value what they can market, and they don't take into account the longevity of a musician's life. And most of the musicians we love and adore, Arthur Rubinstein or Vladimir Horowitz, just to name one or two, these are, we love them for what they've done in their whole breadth of their career. And we love that they've developed and matured. And some of their last concerts are some of the most incredible, deep and moving performances. Where's the competition there? So I want to conclude by saying that, and this may sound extreme, that there is nothing positive or healthy about competitions. That, unless you're being nurtured, unless you're have a strong support network, a lot of the time this can be very detrimental for a musician.
Chris, there was just such a well-articulated point, and you touched on so many aspects of it. I really appreciate you bringing it up in such a concise and clear format. And I completely agree. There's nothing healthy or positive in the competition. Now let's think of what a competition is. Competition is not a person. Competition is an event, right? So I think what creates this toxic environment in the competition is a mindset of people who participate in the event. And we can change that, and a lot of people did. So I'm going to throw it back to you, and I'll give you a little bit of time while I'm talking to form your answer. Is there something, list 3 things which are positive and healthy about Coca-Cola. Okay? And I want to challenge my audience too. Please, in the comments, list 3 things which are positive and healthy about Coca-Cola. And I'm going to tell you a story. Because my personal answer, there's absolutely nothing. It's caffeine, it's sugar, it's, it's all those things which are basically toxic for our bodies. Now here is a story, my own personal story, in which I praise Coca-Cola for saving me from a lot of trouble, and potentially even playing a life-saving tool in one event. We talked already about my trekking habit and my trekking hobby. So on one of the tracks, me and my partner on the trek arrived in the refuge. And for those who don't know what refuge is, it's a small hut glued to the side of the cliffs and mountains, and you arrive there completely exhausted. It's really challenging terrain, and it's just a small place where you can get some food or cook some food. So they provide you basic opportunity to just settle and pitch your tent. So we arrived in there late, exhausted, in a windy, cold conditions, was not really comfortable to continue walking around. In that particular place, which is in Corsica, there is a strong recommendation for everyone who treks those terrains to only drink the water from marked sources, which are marked drinking water. Okay, those sources sometimes are not very conveniently located. And at that particular refuge, one had to climb over rocks another 100 yards down to just get that water and climb it back. Now, when you did your trek for 10 hours already, and all you want is to get some food, get some drink, and just sleep. You don't want to make that trek. So, long story short, me and my trekking partner made opposite choices. There was a source of water in the hut, and it was really dark. There's no electricity in there, of course, not on a cliff. And the source of that water in the dark, you couldn't see really the signs, and the signs are in French, and we're not fluent with French, so it was kind of confusing. So most of the huts do have clean drinking water source in the hut. This one, I couldn't read the sign, and she couldn't. So we both couldn't read the sign. So she said, you know what, we've been to 7 refuges by now, and everyone had drinking water in that source in the hut. I'm not going another 100 yards down and back up. I'm just going to drink this water. And said, well, it's not clearly marked. I know we can assume that it's clean and drinking, but we don't know it for sure. I don't understand the sign. Even with a little flashlight, it's the conditions were against us. Let's put it this way. And there were, options. And I said, okay, I'm just going to put another layer and just walk down there and get the drinking water from there. And she said, well, I'm not going with you. Go. On my way out of the hut, I saw a little sign which said you can purchase a bottle of Coca-Cola from the hut manager for $10. Now, mind you, where I am right now, you can purchase a 2-liter Coca-Cola for under $1. Okay? Or was it even 10 euros? I don't know. Don't remember. But it was really expensive. Well, I understand they have to bring a helicopter. And it's a small bottle. And so I stopped in there and I was weighing my options. And I was thinking about it. Is my trip down there worth $10 of my energy or not? Or should I just trust that the water in the hut is going to be drinking water or not? So lots of options. Just like when you enter a competition, you have lots of things to think about, right? So, and I made a decision, okay, this time I'm just going to buy the Coca-Cola bottle. And that's it. And I did. So my trekking partner drank from the source, which was pretty predictable to be reliable, right? And I didn't exhaust myself going down and up for the clean water, which was marked down there, and climbing in the dark through all those rocks. So I didn't put myself in danger of being exhausted in the dangerous conditions. And I spent the money on a ridiculous amount of money on that one bottle of Coca-Cola. Fast forward next morning, my trekking partner was plastered with diarrhea. We couldn't even continue to go. And I was completely healthy. Now, is there something healthy about Coca-Cola? Absolutely nothing. However, the way you can use something completely unhealthy, completely unpositive, is where our choice makes the difference. It's always easy in life to find things working against us, the circumstances, the conditions, other people's rules, regulations, a lot. If one looks at what prevents us from doing something, one finds a zillion things. And basically, we corner ourselves against the wall. There's nothing we can do about it because we can't change the circumstances. But if we look at the competition, any competition, with the perspective of a tool, we can change how that competition will work for us instead of against us. And I'm going to go point by point of what you brought up. Repertoire. Recycling the repertoire. Are there solutions to that? There are individual solutions, and Gary Graffman mentions that, right? Every artist can find a temporary incremental solution to the repertoire problem, right? We can recycle our repertoire. We can re-record, send the same recording to different competitions, right? We don't need to turn out other opportunities which provide us with growth. For instance, chamber music is an extraordinary opportunity to grow as a musician because you collaborate, you learn from each other, and you create something other than your own solo. Then you take those new skills and you apply to your solo performance. Your solo performance gets enriched by chamber music experience, and instead of playing one playing, two playing, you see a lot more polyphonic content in pieces where you didn't see it. Okay, great, immerse in that. There are plenty of chamber music competitions. While you're working on your chamber music, why not record it? Why not send it out? That's just one example. Next example, spend time learning what the competition does and what it provides to you. Yeah, all competitions, pitch musicians against each other and choose the best. Sure, that's not good. But who are you going to meet in the process? Who are you going to make connections with? What is the level of other contestants? Look at the previous years of that competition. Look at what these people had done after the competition. Expand your circles. Use the competition as a fair to expand your connections, to expand your view. Can you do that? Sure. But it's not up to the competition to provide. It's up to you to use what the competition can offer in a positive and healthy way for yourself. And some competitions don't have a lot to offer, but maybe they offer something unique. Maybe they don't provide you with a lot of chamber music opportunities. If you're looking for chamber music opportunities, look elsewhere. But maybe that particular competition provides you with an opportunity to win a lot of money. Make sure you look at the array of the prizes. Are you competing for one prize? Are you competing for many different prizes? I'll tell you one of my personal stories. One of my wins was actually in a competition which since then closed. It was a pretty known competition in its time, but it doesn't exist anymore. It was Bach competition created by the fund which was started by Res Excelentes. Most people don't even know that competition anymore. But that competition was focused on Bach's music only. At that time, I was very interested in Bach's music and performing Bach's music. And I was learning the entire World Tempo Clavier, the Goldberg variations, and all, a lot of Bach's music. Other competitions didn't really invite that repertoire in such a huge amount, right? But that particular competition did. So I went to that competition, I won second place in there, and in the process, I met like-minded people who were really interested in Bach's legacy, who knew a lot about Bach, which I didn't know, information, his life. So I was able to make connection with like-minded people, and those connections stayed with me for the entire life. And further down, you were talking about long-term. You need to plan long-term. Long-term, these people became my collaborators in many future projects, multitude. When you're planning long-term and setting your goals beyond winning this one particular competition, then your entire attitude towards people involved and towards the events which are happening in there changes. Instead of hoping for that one lucky moment when someone else will discover you and make you the star. That's unrealistic, right? Instead of coming into the competition with that attitude, you come into competition as the owner of your own future. And you approach people and events with that attitude, and you offer your value to those people who are involved. And you seek them to share their value with you and form life-lasting collaborations for future projects which you don't even know what they are. We need to be open-minded that the life of a musician is long, and that process requires us to constantly keep acquiring more and more opportunities. Opportunities are not objects, opportunities are done and created by people. So people are the center of it. If we come to competition with an attitude that's a fair, where people are congregating and they all congregating with a like-minded purpose, which is to share themselves, to find others who are willing to share, to form collaborations, and to create something which has not been done before, which only I, as a unique musician, can create. That attitude changes every step of the way which we do in the process. It changes our approach to choosing the competitions which is suitable for us at the moment. Today, well, not today, in 1991, when I went to the Bach competition, that particular competition suited my development stage at that time perfectly. So I went and won. And it was the most fruitful event for me. One of the most even. And so the choice of the competition needs to suit me as an artist in the time when I'm making that choice. And tomorrow I'm going to choose the other one. Look at what the competition had done. Who are the people who are part of it, who were attracted to that competition, who I'm likely to meet in there? Invest your money wisely. Invest your time wisely. You don't have to win. You go to a different country. You go to this performance. You don't make it second round. But you are in this professional fair with managers, with judges, with other contestants, with their teachers, with their parents, with their collaborators, with their supporters. That's a fantastic source of your base for your future project, for your entire life as an artist. Competition is a tool, and it will be what we make out of it. So that was my point.
I love it. Yeah, and I love like what you said. You are your owner of your own future. That you go in with that you offer your own value, and that you use this opportunity. And I really believe that, because a lot of people lament that the pandemic or this happened, and look, in Sydney we're in lockdown again. But my perspective is always, why can't you make the best of the situation, the circumstance that you're in? Why can't you make the best of it? And sometimes you might be called to, sit at home and learn the Bach's World Tempo Clavier. That if you're in lockdown for 8 weeks, it's a great time to sit down and do something different, or learn something you haven't had the time to do. I was talking to my piano technician. He said, I finally have time to go to my workshop and work on the projects I've never had time to do otherwise. So I love this idea of using the opportunity, using the circumstance, and being the owner of your destiny and your fate and what you do. And in that way, you don't feel like you're being controlled. You don't feel like you're at the whim of the world. You feel like you have a place and you're in control.
Exactly. And what you mentioned about Gary Graffman, he was absolutely right. If you happen to make it to Curtis and be accepted to Gary Graffman's studio, maybe for that particular person, competing is not necessary. He was absolutely right, because Gary Graffman had already acquired wide possibilities and connections with other people who he could recommend his students to. But not everyone is in Curtis. So we're talking about vast majority of young musicians who are not in Curtis. Curtis only accepts maybe one pianist, and not even every other year. Yeah. So you can. Now again, if you want to be in Gary Graffman's studio, you need to compete for that studio. So you're again in the square one, choosing the competitions. Choose them wisely.
Yeah. You still have to compete. But it's about the perspective of what you're doing. If you're thinking it's always a competition, that I'm against these people, it's me against the world, then I don't think you're going to be very happy. But if you feel everything is an opportunity to shine, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You try something different, and if it works out, you make the most of that as well.
Chris, I'm going to challenge you. That doesn't work out. That's a very passive mindset to me. What is that supposed to work out? If we change our mindset to we can make things work for us the way we want, as opposed to expecting the world to revolve around us, for some magic magician manager to pick us up and just do everything for us, or Gary Graffman just taking us and introducing us to his vast contacts. He was not given those contacts. Just learn from your previous generation and how people did that. Gary Graffman worked really hard on his art, on his pedagogy, on making contacts, on forming lasting relationships, expecting that this can be just packaged and given to you as a Christmas present, is a very passive approach, which disables a lot of musicians from being successful and developing as artists, musicians, and developing their career. I think the approach needs to be, we all need to walk that path, just like famous musicians did before. They worked on making their career, and they understood that it's all about people. They respected people who are making things happen, not automatic. We're just so immersed in this world where you push the button and the screen changes. We communicate with machines a lot, and we lament that we can't communicate with people. But a lot of times we just forget that people need to be communicated with the respect that they may want to do something or they may not want to do something. So approaching those fairs where musicians congregate and managers congregate with the respect that these are people who make things happen. And I'm too. I'm a person who makes things happen. I'm a person who learns the new repertoire. I'm the person who can step on stage and bring something unique with it. So I can make this happen, but I can make other things happen too. I can form friendships. And friendships and the collaborations are the juice, the foundation, and the engine behind successful careers.
Absolutely. Yeah, people all there are people who kind of look down upon, oh, you're just out to network or make relationships, and oh, you're just out to network basically. And I think that's part of it. Isn't that important? Like, isn't that part of what we do? And isn't that
it's a big part of what
yeah, and I think it's every part of it is important, and it all makes up something that you build on your own. And I think that's what we do here at Sound Spirit of Competition, is that we encourage people to actually build their own careers and say, look, yeah, I could rely on so and so to help me out, but no, I have to be the one who shows that I can do it. And if there's an opportunity, I'll take it and make the most of it. And if there's other things other people can talk to, like I really admire people who stay to the end of an event, and they help clean up or they help put things together, because these are people who are committed. Like if you go to a conference or go to a music camp and you're there to help, you're there to talk to people, you're there to tidy up and help the camp, then they're going to really like you, and then you feel like you're part of something, and they'll feel like you're part of them too.
Exactly, because you're not acting like a drama queen or a celebrity. You're acting like a human being who respects other human beings. And I can't agree more. And to the point, you're here only to network. This is black and white thinking, which I understand a lot of people exercise that kind of thinking, and maybe it's applicable someplace, but it's not very well applicable to musicians' career. Black and white, if you go to the competition, you're only to network. It's absurd. You've prepared your repertoire. You worked hard towards this. Let's say you go to Chopin competition. You prepared 3 hours worth of repertoire. Who can even say you're only to network? You're there to present and to give your art to others, to share, to find recognition, to find affirmation, and to find critique. So let's be honest with ourselves. What are we there for? We're there for acknowledgement of our talents and hard work and dedication, and we're there for our career because we want to be enabled to continue to give what we give best, our music. Thank you, Chris, so much. I want to underscore, Chris Au is one of the most inspiring people to have a deep dive into difficult questions. He brings absolutely the best from everyone he interacts with, myself included. I was just watching this conversation and admiring Chris's insightfulness, his encouragement, his warmth, and his extraordinary ability to connect with people and topics at the same time. And he's also a phenomenal pianist. I would like to encourage everyone to find Chris online. Of course, he's everywhere. Just type in Chris Au, pianist, and his performances, his hostings, not only for virtual concert halls, but for other channels will pop up. Chris is an enormous source of positive energy, wisdom, insightfulness, and youthfulness. So thank you, Chris, for being part of our team, our program, and we can't wait for you to rejoin us in this season, and Chris will be with us. So stay with us, come again, watch us at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time every day, and some additional programs will be happening at different times of the day as well. How to find out when we are on, please subscribe to our channels and you'll get a notification. And again, please communicate with us. Leave us comments. We are all about engaging, communicating through different forms. Of course, music is the most important. Thank you, Stacy, for your wonderful comment. Very thoughtful, and we really appreciate. So please join us, be part of our community. We welcome you very, very much into our circle, into our network. So please engage, argue with us. We want to hear critique, argument, everything, and join this big community of collaborators, musicians, artists, presenters, managers, concert halls, orchestras, opera houses. We have a lot of people working together on making music stage a better place for everyone, for musicians and audiences alike. And we are on every platform, video platforms, social networks. We are there, and we really are going out of our way to make this community a really working place, a really enjoyable, energetic place for everyone to be welcome for who they are, for their artistry to shine. We support everyone who makes this courageous step on the 6-foot tall stage in concert halls, or a floor in small concert practice rooms or presenting rooms, or on a virtual stage, just like this one I'm on right now. And we want to discover you. We want you to discover us and our atmosphere, our way of communicating and being with each other. And now there was another conversation with Chris. Like I said, I can't stop conversing with Chris because he just brings the best out of everyone, myself included. And that was another dive into more of these questions. I hope you stay with us. Please enjoy.
Competitor of the Sound Expressive competition, as well as other competitions all around the world, especially in this online atmosphere because of the COVID pandemic. It's really important to sift out the even more and increasingly more competitions out there, and to find which ones are really suitable for yourself, but also if you're a teacher, how to choose them for your students.
From my current research of the competitions, the general trend is shifting. Yeah, the old established competitions, which have been in existence for 50, 60 or more years, there were very strict age requirements in there. But I'm seeing more and more competitions which promote older musicians, more mature musicians, and even amateur musicians. You know, Van Cliburn was one of the first ones who did that, and that was quite a few years ago. There's a competition for amateur musicians and for musicians past the age 32. It used to be, when I was your age, Chris, the 32 used to look to me like end of life.
Retirement age.
Retirement age. Yeah, that's when
If you haven't made it by 32, you're done.
Exactly. If you haven't made your career by 32, your career is done and you're a neighborhood teacher and you can't even strive for any performance opportunities. But that's not true anymore.
Because with all these competitions, it allows students to really share their music all over the place. You know, you can actually, I have friends who do a sort of competition world tour almost. They hop around different places, doing competitions, sharing around the same kind of music, and just practicing performing, practicing honing a piece, practicing being nervous, practicing all these things to prepare and find out what works. Do you have to eat a breakfast before you play? Do you have a smoothie? Do you have a nap? All these things are really interesting. Yeah, exactly. What works?
It used to be banana. You can change. Well, you're absolutely right. With so many opportunities, you can actually set specific goals for each and try, and you know, it's all trial and error and learning from it. And that is potentially a very effective goal for teachers to set for the students. Okay, we're not really experienced enough in performing, so you don't know if a banana or smoothie is the better one, or if you're more comfortable with long sleeves or short sleeves, right? Or you want to look more formal, or you want to your attire to express the piece you're playing. There's so many of those possibilities, and the current environment where there's so many competitions really provides the opportunity to set individual goals.
And that's what's really interesting about competitions, that we're turning it from something where it's this one chance or nothing to many chances to really discover your voice. Maybe you go on stage and you just feel so nervous playing, I don't know, something like Mozart, right? We're all nervous playing
Don't
Mozart.
start with Mozart, right?
Don't start with Mozart. But maybe
Exactly.
sometime you might get so comfortable with it that you're like, no, I'm going to start with it. This is me. I love starting with Mozart.
Exactly.
And then so I think it's a really good chance to try things and, you know, experiment.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of teachers I get, from my colleagues and friends, I get feedback. Oh, there's just too many competitions. That's just a burden. But you're right. There's a good point. The too many competitions cannot be too many opportunities. So it's important to take the current environment, which is confusing, oversaturated, overloaded with different projects. Take that environment and see what's the best it provides. It provides variety, and it provides a number of opportunities for students, which allows the teachers to really develop the performance side. Now, setting the goals for students is a tough call, right? There's a ton of different goals. People come to study piano, like you and I are pianists, right? But people go to study music for a variety of goals. And for parents, a lot of times, okay, we're going to use music as a vehicle to develop the person, to develop thinking, logic, coordination, and to learn to appreciate the art, because it's a complicated thing as opposed to something more simple, which kids may be more inclined to do. Right?
I like how you said that, because we're putting a positive spin to competitions. We want to actually let the world know that competitions can be used for good. Because there's so many of them and it seems like it's too overwhelming, but no, we can actually find good ones. So can you talk a little bit more about your process with your students and parents and how you talk to them about competitions?
Yeah, you're right. First of all, your foundation matches mine. Some teachers may disagree, but my fundamental approach, competition is an opportunity. Okay, and like I said, out of a variety of goals, why people study music, we need to remember that music, by definition, is a language, a communication, and studying music, we need to remember to keep the goal of performance in place. For a lot of people, maybe performance is not the ultimate goal, but it needs to be one of the goals why we study an instrument or voice or something. So competitions as a platform for performance, for setting those goals, provides some clarity. So when I'm looking for competitions, I keep in mind that the competition is providing the vehicle for my students to exercise and to experience performance. So students need a lot of competitions. Now, just doing random competitions can be very dissatisfying, because I'm going to do all the competitions, and here you stumble upon the competition focused on Schumann. and you find out, okay, I have to learn a Schumann piece for this competition. Don't do that. Instead, assess clearly where the student is for the next, 3-4 months. Then go narrow down your search. The research needs to be efficient and productive. Let's look for the dates between now and December, what's out there. And you will probably, if you key in competitions, music competitions on Google, and the dates between now and December, you'll get hundreds of results, okay?
Yeah.
And that can be daunting for the teachers because we do need to research efficiently. And we need to be able to recommend based on conclusions from that research. So how to go about that research? So you get your hundreds of results in there, then you need to narrow down. Let's say my studio is piano. Okay, I teach piano. Do I only look for piano competitions? Well, it depends. If I want my students, like you said, very important thing, competition is a vehicle to expand the circles, to network, to meet like-minded people, and to be with a community of others who appreciate music. So do I want my pianist, student, I'm talking about a particular student, does that student lack community? Sometimes they do. Piano can be a very lonely thing to do. Then I'm going to look for competitions which have mixed instruments with the hope that the student is going to meet other people, maybe gain some connections and maybe end up playing chamber music or at least chat with a flutist about music. That will give even a young student a chance to expand their perspective, okay? Now, if my student is working on a concerto, right, I'm going to look for competitions which accept concertos. And that's just some examples. I think as teachers, we need to use competitions, and I stress the word use competitions, to serve the goals of progress for the students. One of the very important things, and every teacher knows that, and even Chris, you probably will agree with me, as a performing musician, we need a date.
We do. We do.
We need a date.
We need that pressure. We need that. Oh, there's 10 days to go. It's 2 weeks until I have to perform this. Totally agree.
Exactly. And I need a date too. Yeah, I'm devoted to music, and
the teacher needs a date. The teacher needs a date too, right? Like it's I need to make sure I prepare this student. I've got a week or 2 weeks left. How are we going to prepare? And it's also, I think, as a teacher, a really good way to experiment on what works for the student. Can I push him more, or can I let her loose? I said, look, I've already prepared her. I'm just going to give her a few pointers here and there, and 3 days before, I'm not going to give her pressure. Whereas some kids, you might have to really drive in.
I have a bit of a different perspective in that. I prefer to do the life to let life do the pushing, as opposed to me pushing.
Okay, all right.
So once you have the dates set and the goals set, and everyone is on the same page, your student, the parents, and you yourself. Let's say you have, sometimes my students participate in 1 or 2 competitions every month. And we set those dates and we say, okay, if you flop a date, no big deal. We have another one. But if you don't flop the date, you get an opportunity to perform in more competitions, learn more pieces, impress your parents. Kids
Don't forget
love to
they paid
impress
for
the
you
parents.
to. Don't forget they paid the application fee. So if you forfeit, they might not be so happy with
Exactly.
you.
Letting life do the pressure. The parents will say, well, I paid $100 for this competition. You better be ready. Then I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And that creates a more healthy interaction between the teacher and the student. A panel of judges at the Sound Espressivo competition is large, and it's comprised of people who are very experienced in judging competitions. And last year in 2020, and this year it's going to be the same, we have a deliberation process. The judges are in the deliberation room, which is locked. It's a virtual room. No admin from the competition have any access to that room, so we can't even tell the judges, would you please stop deliberating already?
Hurry up.
Hurry up. Everybody's hanging out there waiting for the results. Sometimes the judges deliberated for hours. You were one of those people who chose to participate in Sound Espressivo competition when it was first time running.
Yeah.
So how did you choose that?
I loved, first of all, that it was all online and it was live streamed. I loved that it was immediate feedback. I got to talk to the jury. And so what I look for in a competition is actually how much I can get in touch with the organizers. I've done other competitions where you submit a video and then you just get a result and that's it, right? And what is amazing about Sound Expressiva is you can actually. I chatted with you the first time we ever played. I ever played for the competition, and then I got to chat with the jury, and then there was actually an email process and there's a communication. And so what happens, which I think is really essential, especially I think for students who are in college level and looking to really discover themselves and be proactive about their careers, is that in order to be proactive, you actually have to send emails. You actually have to make the connections. You actually have to present yourself in a way that if that person likes you, they want to get in touch. And so what is amazing about Sound Expressiva is the jury is made out of different musicians. You have composers who may want to get in touch. You might have a conductor who says, oh, I really like this guy. Or you might have presenters who may say, hey, actually, I want him on the podcast, or I want him on this thing, or I want to present him because I like the way he talks to the audience, or I like the way he programs. It's really thoughtful, really considerate. And so these are the things I think for parents, teachers, and students to look for, is to say, what can I connect with? You know, how can I make myself known and not just rely on, I sound a bit jaded when I say this, but, you know, wait for a silver platter to be presented to me. You know, I think we need to be moving into a direction where, be proactive. Be proactive. Do what you want. Discover if you're good at presenting, if you're not, if you're good at programming. And so what Sound Expressiva does is that there's a freedom in no time limit, no repertoire requirements, and so you get to do what you want to do. You get to have the freedom to choose. No one else does it. And here's the interesting thing is, even in a live competition, the jury is listening to so many competitors that unless they write notes or unless they're really diligent about it, they don't really remember what you did. The incredible thing about Sound Expressiva, you play, and you get told their impressions right away. You know, that whether they loved it, whether they were a little bit, you know, unsure about what you're trying to say in your piece, you get it right away. And it's really, really amazing to hear like 5 different opinions right after you play, congratulating you. And I personally felt that even if I didn't make it to the next round, I got a lot out of it already.
The going rate for someone to compete is at least $100. And many competitions charge more. And, you know, you can look at it from whatever different perspectives, but the competitions are big machines to run. And I can understand why the cost is so much higher than it used to be. So your point of, okay, even if I didn't make it to the next round, I already got basically my money's worth of service, right? And it may sound cynical, but it's actually not. It's a honest, practical approach, which I think is very important for teachers to keep in mind.
Yeah, otherwise I felt like, honestly, applying to different competitions before, I felt like I was just donating to the arts. You apply to stuff, you're just donating. You just say, oh, this competition seems like it's very well known. I put in like, you know, $200 US to apply for it, and I get told, sorry, we did not choose you. That's not a good investment. That's a donation. That's worse than a donation. Really, it's worse than a donation. Oh, it's horrible. And so this is really, really effective, because whatever you donate or you apply and submit, you actually get something in return. You get something sincere. And when you get feedback from a jury member right after you play, you betcha that's sincere. You betcha like you're not going to get any fabrication, or they're not going to have had a big lunch and too sleepy to give you a proper assessment of your playing.
So you get unfiltered feedback. And that's, well, that's another very important point I think you're just making. Because unfiltered, immediate feedback, why is it so valuable to the artists to get from colleagues? Simple. Because when we're performing, audience has unfiltered, immediate feedback. They just don't say it.
Yeah.
But you kind of need to know how your art communicates in the moment if you're preparing to perform in the moment. And even for the students who are not aiming at professional careers, even for very young students, when you're playing your piece, you want to feel that feedback from the audience, even if it's just a few people.
I want to take your point about communication a little bit further, because what was really essential about this competition was it actually allowed me to discover that I had other talents other than just being a pianist, that I could speak, that I could relate to the audience. This was the first competition where I actually presented my pieces before I played. This was the first competition where after I presented, I got feedback on my presentation. And this is the first competition where with the artistic awards, it says, no, you know what, let's put you in music ambassador. You know, we think we have this kind of gift to do music ambassador work. Like you present yourself well, and I'm like, okay. And you know what? That actually led me to do that for my own concerts here in Australia. I went about preparing an actual proper speech, a proper set of pointers, showing examples, and it worked really well. The audience absolutely loved it. And these audience members hadn't gone to a classical music concert in, I don't know, 10 years, and they loved it because of what happened. I did in the competition where I presented, and then I honed that skill, I refined it, and then when it came to being in a concert experience, I was able to deliver something that was more thoughtful. So I have a lot to thank you for. And sometimes what you end up getting from people who listen to you is there are certain people who are really honest with you. There are certain people who actually say, you know what, and because I've judged, just one round so far, I found myself saying, I really want to help the student. You know, he's not my student, but I really want to help. So how can I actually help him? Is it by pointing out you didn't do this articulation? Or is it saying, how can you take this to the next level? How can I inspire you to work on it more? How can I inspire you to say, look, I really love what you're doing, but how about let's take it up a few notches? And how can I, and I think that comes from a very sincere point. And I think in competitions where you can actually have live feedback, that's there.
Thank you, Chris, for being who you are, for being a true music ambassador. You are an incredible person to have a conversation with, and we'll come back to these topics. There's still a lot to unearth in there, and this is one part of the purpose of our programming, to unearth meaningful approaches to various challenges musicians face, and the audiences too. We get a lot of feedback from the audience, and we hope you who are watching our programs now will give us feedback as well. Please share what you think. If you disagree, please share that you disagree. We would like to engage, because the debate and the conversation between people is how we get to clarity and to better understanding of different aspects of arts and life. And we will be back again tomorrow at 12 noon. We will be back with the program unpacking more of the 23-24 upcoming concert season, and we'll give you an overview of another segment of different events, auditions, and competitions. We'll present different aspects of it. So if you're considering joining our community, joining our season, you will be able to understand how it works a little bit better, because lots of those events are presented in a new format. So understanding what that format is important, so that you can decide whether or not it's really for you. And the second program, which we will be presenting tomorrow, will put a spotlight on one of the laureates of the previous season, who participated and went through A to Z, through the entire process with us, and won a laureate title and an opportunity to perform at the Laureates Gala concert at the Carnegie Hall. I'm not going to tell you who that person is. I hope you get curious and join us and find out. And now I want to thank very much our fabulous team, and you can see right there on the screen, Chris Au is a member of the team, and everyone else. And I want to extend special thanks to Ante Božić-Kudrić, who is a pianist and a composer and one of the directors of the today's show, and James Welch, who is a pianist, conductor, and producer of music shows, operas, and Broadway shows, and who is one of the directors of our show today. Thank you, guys. I feel your support, and it's wonderful working together with you in those programs. And now I want to thank our audience for being with us, for supporting us with your attention, with your engagement, and for sharing our programs. Please, if you find this may be helpful or interesting to people you know, please share on your networks and invite them to join our movement. Thank you all and see you tomorrow. Bye.